Welcome to part one of White Picket Fences of Perfection. This is a story of an all-American Black girl who grew up in a home with a narcissistic father. So the story of part one starts from when I was born till about 8 years old. That's why I want to stop it. 0 to 8. When I was born, I have 2 birth times. I don't know why. My mother act like she don't know why. The family act like they don't know why I have 2 birth times. But even though I was born in 1982, the hospitals, the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital was not that frivolous or whatever with their information. Like, it was a very high capacity hospital in Tallahassee. So I'm consultant with a couple of my friends who are doctors, and they've told me a couple of things that could have happened. But I'm not going to focus on that right now. I'm not going to focus on the 2 birth times, but it is important. And also, my mother did not breastfeed me. It is important for Black women to breastfeed their babies because that breast milk, that nutrients keeps your child healthy, specifically as an adult. It reduces the chances of that child having tree nut and shell allergies. It reduces them to have sinus issues and upper respiratory issues, asthma, and things of that nature. It significantly reduces their likelihood of being very ill or sick or developing autoimmune disorders. Like, it is important that Black women breastfeed their children. And that's why it's a whole movement that I am a champion of, for Black women to breastfeed their babies. But I have a narcissistic, abusive father. So, of course, my mom didn't latch. Of course, my mom didn't breastfeed me. Of course, my mom didn't like me. Of course, my mom was angry with me a lot from 0 to 8 years old. Because my father managed to triangulate me against my mother. I don't know how he did it, but I was a child. But when I was a child, my mother only paid attention to me when I was sick. Now, when I got sick, it was urgency with her. I believe those 2 birth times had a lot to do with that. My mom jumped up when my baby, I got to get my baby to the hospital. I got to get her treatment. But when it comes to teaching me how to tie my shoes, teaching me left to right, help reading stories to me, actually playing with me, being a mother to their children emotionally, she was very detached from me. She would not teach me anything. My oldest brother, who's about 13 years older than me, taught me how to tie my shoes. And all my mother did was yell at me about not knowing how to tie my shoes, right? I didn't know left from right. How I learned left from right is I have a scar on my left hand because when I was in 3rd grade, I cut this hand. It was an accident in the classroom. My teacher went ballistic. I'm still friends with her to this day. But because I had this scar on my left hand, it taught me left to right. My mother didn't help me with my homework because I started having homework around 2nd grade. It's not significant homework, but the teachers are trying to teach you how to be responsible and take care of some of the assignments at home so you can come prepared for the next day. I had to do those assignments myself. I had to teach myself how to do my homework and make sure I do it that night and submit it. I had to do a lot of things on my own at that age. And also, I took but like a psychologist evaluated me in 2nd grade because thank God for my 2nd grade teacher to stand up and say, hey, something is wrong with this 7-year-old. She should be caught up with everybody by now. She's delayed. Like, she's not writing well. She's not speaking the words well. Like, it's not clicking in her head, but she's very intelligent and she'll talk to you. She could tell you about the information, but it's a disconnect. And I found out in college, in my master's program, that I have a form of dyslexia. And my parents knew that in 2nd grade, they knew that. But what they did is they denied it to the psychologist and said that, and they came back to me and said, don't act like you don't know how to do your work. You just need to apply yourself. And we told your teachers that you need to apply yourself. So at 7 years old, I learned what applying myself was. So the reason why these events are happening is because the narcissistic parent isn't allowing my mother to be a mother to me. He is being abusive, verbally and emotionally abusive. He is triangulating everyone in the home. He also is, I didn't notice at the time, he has assigned roles to my brother and I. My brother is the golden child. And when you're the golden child, it starts from birth. And when you're the target and the scapegoat, it starts from birth. So my smear campaign, the smear campaign that my father did, started when I was born. The biggest part of my smear campaign to other family members is that I'm spoiled, rotten, and stubborn. And that I don't listen to anyone, and that I'm problematic. Now, anybody who knows me, and all my teachers and professors and everybody that knows me, the only thing that's true in that concept is that I'm stubborn. I'm a stubborn Taurus in a way that when I have my mind set on something, I'm going to get it done. But because I have empathy and a willingness to learn, I'm willing to hear how other people do it, and I'm very highly teachable. And if I was all those things today, which the smear campaign is going on right now today in that context, I would not be obtaining a terminal degree, which is a PhD from Clark Atlanta University. This is not an easy program. So back to a child, right? So another thing that was going on during that time, and this is a very sensitive subject, so trigger warning to anyone who's listening to my podcast about these stories. What goes on a lot in a home with a narcissist is child molestation, right? This is not uncommon. And it ranges from pornographic material, talking to the child about things that are not appropriate at that age. It varies from fathers and mothers fondling all the way up to penetration on their little children. I was not penetrated. I don't want you to talk about that. But from 5 to 8, my parents were forcing me to sleep in their bed. I would go to bed in my bed at 5 and 6 years old and say, I'm going to stay in my bed. I don't want to go sleep with y'all, and wake up in their bed with them doing acts in front of me. And this went on from 5 to 8 years old. Now, understand, in this podcast is my first time going public about this, and this is the first time my family is hearing about this. Please do not harass my family. And please do not tarnish my mother's name. Please do not tarnish anybody. This is just what a narcissist does to take autonomy away from the scapegoat child, to take their autonomy away, to shame them, to humiliate them, to allow them to not have any boundaries. That's the whole purpose of sexual molestation. The child doesn't get boundaries. And that's what happened with me as a target child. They were stripping away my boundaries so that they themselves and everybody else can humiliate, shame, and perpetrate on the target child to maintain control over the target child. I am not going to go into detail about what I saw or what was going on. It's just a very important part of this story in my healing journey. And it's not for you all to feel like this was some type of erotica, because it's not. It's really a problematic behavior of narcissists with children to strip away their boundaries. So that went on till I was about 8 years old. I am looking at my notes because I want to be thorough and let you know how this goes. So I want to talk about from 0 to 8 years old as a clinician and practitioner, right? As a clinical social worker. Me not latching, my mother not breastfeeding me is a clear sign that something is going on with that mother refusing to breastfeed that child. There is something emotionally going on. And usually in the domestic violence world is that the father is being abusive. And when a woman is pregnant, that is one time she's most likely to be unalived by the abusive partner. It's such a vulnerable time, and the abuser knows when the child is born that all the attention will come to the child, but the abuse during that time is to get the mother to understand, I don't care if you have this baby, I am the most important person in your life, not these children. I am. And you're gonna have these children because you're gonna have my babies because I want you to, but you're gonna understand that I am prioritized. That's what was going on in my household when it came to me once the target child was born, right? Also understand that my family is living under the patriarchy, right? So when a girl was born, my father immediately understood that I was less than. In society, I'm going to be less than, and I'm a black woman, so I'm not going to make much money as him. In his head, I'm not going to make as much money. I am a woman, I'm a black woman, I'm devalued. So her only purpose in life is just to be a woman and be a slave. These dynamics are going on with narcissistic fathers and their daughters. This is what's replaying in that man's head, that my daughter is less than. So all of my tactics on my target child, because she's a girl, is going to be tactics under the patriarchy to snatch her soul away. And it started from birth. Now, let's talk about the emotional neglect, because I've already talked about the sexual molestations. Let's talk about the emotional neglect. Oh, my mother used to physically assault me a lot during that time too, till about 9 years old, for little things like losing a jacket, not knowing how to tie my shoes, asking a question because I don't understand. Because sometimes 7-year-olds don't understand, y'all. Like, I don't understand what you're trying to communicate to me. And not wanting to teach me, not wanting to read to me, because from birth, the narcissistic parent, which mine is my father, said, you're going to have my children, but they're not going to be your focus. I'm the focus in the house. They're an afterthought. And that's how a father who is a narcissist does their children. My brother's the golden child. I'm the scapegoat. It's easier to perpetrate on a daughter than it is a son from a parent standpoint because of gender norms and the devaluing of women. So her focus wasn't to nurture or teach or anything. Her focus was to isolate and obey. Because my mother was not physically assaulted by my father, but definitely economically, emotionally, and verbally. And my father did smear campaigns on my mom, and my father made it look like to the public that my mom should be so grateful that this man who has a house chose her. So in the 80s, all of those things are factoring into my mother's head. And as a domestic violence survivor, which she is, you're literally trapped in that house in the 1980s with 2 kids, right? And at the time, for a minute, my oldest brother, who's about 12, 13 years older than us, was living with us. I'm not going to go into his story, but I know it well to the T, what happened with him. And it's very awful. So that's why I do not deny my oldest brother, because what happened to him was very awful. My father was very nasty to him and his mother, and he owes them an apology. But back to the social worker and the domestic violence expert and the clinician, from my birth till about 8, 9 years old, this is what was going on, right? My father wasn't doing anything physical per se, like as far as putting his hands on me yet, but it was a lot of triangulation, a lot of smear campaigning on my mom and myself. One thing my father always said, when my brother and I started school in kindergarten, he started this in kindergarten. He told my brother and I, if your teacher comes to tell me anything about your behavior, I'm not going to believe your story, because why would a teacher risk their job over you? And my parents repeated that narrative all through elementary school. So when teachers did violate me, I had violations in high school. I was already trained that my parents not going to believe me. And understand, as a child learned at 7 years old, you have to apply yourself, right? Like, it is an open season for any adult to come in and do whatever they want to my brother and I, specifically myself. So understand that the context of what I'm trying to talk about in my story is just not my memoir or my story, but how a narcissistic father treats their daughter and how that father uses the patriarchy and anything under that to strip her of her autonomy, strip her of value, how he triangulated me with my mother. So my mother did not like me. She loved me unconditionally because when I got sick, she was running me to the hospital, of course, and concerned and worried. But the triangulation happened. So she was not able to parent my brother and I like she wanted to. There was a way that my mother envisioned parenting her children and she could not. My mother isolated, my brother and I were isolated because my mother always had us with her. I don't know what that was about. But like I said, I didn't go to preschool. I didn't have any interactions with anybody outside of my family until I went to elementary school. And fun fact, when I was a baby, my first year of life, I refused to let my father hold me. I used to cry. I do remember that as a child. Anytime my father tried to pick me up, I would scream and holler, and my mama had to come get me. And that turned into all men as a baby. So if I felt that if you had any masculine energy, I would holler and scream and be like, y'all women come get me. I don't know why that was going on. Clinically, and as a domestic violence expert, what was going on is the abuse. I was witnessing that abuse. I knew at that time that my father was a malignant narcissist and an abusive person. And I knew everything in my soul as a baby knew that that was dangerous. But that's my father, right? But I knew it was dangerous because babies know. And that's coming from a clinician aspect. Now, what actually went on in my first year of life, I can't tell you. I don't know. And the only person who can tell you is my mother, and my mother is no longer with us. So thank you for staying with me with part 1. So part 2 is next. I'm going to start part 2 at 8 years old. Actually, I'm going to start at 9 because I think I talked a lot between 0 to 8, 0 to 9. I want to start talking about 9 years old when I turn 9 and I'm beginning to become a preteen, because you're a preteen between 9 and 12, right? So we're going to talk about what it looks like to have a narcissistic father when you turn between 9 and 12.